Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the Enonologs here. Hope all has been well. You guys seem to be fucking with the last one a lot, so appreciate you. Thank you for all the views and everything. Yeah, welcome to the As We Venture Forth page. Like I said, I'll have all the stuff in the bottom. If you want to go follow us on anything, go listen to us on anything, it's all in the little description and everything like that. Yeah, been waiting to do the second one there. I just had so much fun doing the first one, and I got way more of a reaction that I thought I was going to get from it. So, yeah, I was kind of excited to do the second one here. I think last time we were... let me get my camera right here. I think the last time we were speaking to you guys, we were just kind of talking about, my past and everything like that and how I kind of got there. And I think a good place to start off, it was really, I think about 12 years old at this time. I had gotten collecting CDs at this point. Like I said, I had that little boombox speaker, and I think at some point, I don't know if it was yet, but I'm pretty sure at this point I'd obtained like a Walkman. And so I actually had CDs. I remember the CDs that I had to get always my parents to buy them. Obviously, it was like one of those situations, because I wasn't 17, and like I didn't really, there was no downloading or nothing like that back then. So, well, not yet at least. So I remember I had that first Puddle of Mud CD that came out. I had that one. I had brought Creed up, and again, like Puddle of Mud was using the rest of the shit. I had the Creed CD. And let's see, I had that Fresh Prince CD and Limp Bizkit. I don't know if I ever really obtained, I don't think I obtained Hybrid Theory, Linkin Park till later, but I remember that I had started actually collecting music now, and I was starting to kind of get my taste. I remember, Smash Mouth. I don't think I ever had that CD, but I remember that was like one of the first people that I was like, oh, this is cool. Or like Uncle Kracker and shit like that. Again, I think Uncle Kracker was used in WWE shit. So at this point, I was actually starting to get the music, and I was actually starting to listen to it and really vibe out with it. And I guess what's kind of funny is that Limp Bizkit CD, even though I kind of knew going into it that it wasn't like, I was always aware that it wasn't like rap. I wasn't a huge rap fan yet or nothing, but I was aware that Limp Bizkit wasn't like, I never seen it as like, he's a rapper, Like, I mean, I know Fred Durst is a rapper, but at first it wasn't really like that. So I had these CDs. I'm starting to kind of collect my own knowledge of music and like it, adapt my own taste. That's the wrong word for that, but I'm starting to get up my own taste for music and shit. A lot of it is still from wrestling. Now, I think around like 12 years old, my parents had split up. So this is where I kind of really go into my venture of like how I'm starting to like really like music and fall in love with it and everything like that. Before we get to me actually like getting into becoming like writing and everything like that, I guess a good time is now is like one of my huge influences in fucking being a juggalo, ICP, and how I kind of got into that. I had a taste for it basically. So ICP really pulled me in when I had first ever heard them, because I was so young and I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like, all that stuff was new to me. I remember going to Tyler's house, and he really liked that. There was some music, a lot of, I think those Puddle of Muds and stuff like those CDs I was getting, I was trying to get because I thought Tyler would think it was cool, so I gotten them, and I thought that if he thought that I was cool enough that he would like, hang out with me more and stuff. And he always loved me and everything like that, but it wasn't like, I was still like his younger cousin. He wasn't exactly trying to have me hang out with his clique and everything. So I remember listening to that CD, still love that CD today, the chocolate starfish hot dog flavored water, I think it is. Yeah. That was like the first CD I remember like listening to, and I remember like showing my friends like, yo, check out this CD. Now, the only reason I bring up ICP is because that was like the first time that I heard some shit and I was like legitimately like scared about it. I remember my cousin hanging out with my cousin more and more, and like trying to like be as cool as fuck so I could hang out with him. He was a juggalo, and he had, before I even knew about ICP, I remember he was into some weird music, because not only was he showing me like Linkin Park, not that that's weird, but I remember going in and he had like a promo poster for Slipknot, and I remember that first album that came, it was like self-titled or something, but I remember seeing them and I was like, this guy listens to Serial Killers, like what the fuck is this, was kind of baffled by it. Now, I remember seeing Slipknot up there and kind of being like, damn, like Tyler had his, in his early Juggalo days, like he was, I don't know, he's got to be like 5 years older than me or something like that. So when I was 12, he was like 17 and shit. No, maybe it's like 4 years then. So he was, even though it wasn't like a huge gap, it was enough where it was like he was a teenager, I was still just a little fucking kid, But my cousin Tyler was the first one that really introduced me to like anything Juggalo music and music in general for a lot of stuff. I remember he had his hair like leopard printed. He had the leopard print hair for a while. He had the straight up like freak show hair where it was like, braided up but like loose at the end and shit. So I remember he was going through shit. But to me, like I said, he was my big cousin, like my big brother. I was like, this motherfucker's the coolest person there is. Like, holy shit. So I remember didn't even know what ICP was to listen to or anything like that. I remember I knew what ICP was, but I didn't know what it stood for. Like, that's how like far back it was, because I was just trying to grab anything that my cousin thought was cool and I was trying to fuck with it, so he thought I was cooler. I remember even, this is just kind of like a sidebar, but I remember even in my DARE class, when I was in like 5th grade, they'd given these DARE water bottles, and I'd written like Limp Bizkit all over it and like ICP, and I remember my mom being like, what's ICP? And I was like, it's ICP. I had no fucking idea what it was, which even probably made her more suspicious, like whatever. But I remember at one point how I was introduced to it was the first song I ever heard from ICP or anything like that was the Ringmaster intro. Now, if you never fucking heard it and you're not a Juggalo, you should just go listen back to it. It's not that long. But my cousin, being in his like rebellious like teenage years, was living with his grandparents, which he lived with a lot of his life, or our grandparents. And at some point he was like, he needed his own separate room, and he had moved out. And I know it sounds horrible, he moved out to their shed. My grandpa had built this shed and it was like holding their stuff, but he just like kind of cleared it out and like had power running to it and everything like that. And he moved out there, and that was just so where he could like have friends come through without like, being, because he was wilding. My cousin was fucking wild in his younger years. So in any case, he had moved out to the shed and we were just playing video games in there. And I remember, like, he literally had, like, a fucking bed, like, not even, like, a bed in there, but he had, like, a place where he slept, like, a sleeping area, and he had, like, an old bathtub that they never even took out of there. And I remember having to, like, put, like, cushions and shit in there so I could stay at his house, because I wasn't trying to, like, stay inside the house with my younger cousin. I wanted to hang out with Tyler. So I was, like, sleeping in his bathtub. But I remember at one point, he's like, and I think maybe to this day, he was, like, trying to fuck with me. Because at some point, he goes, all right, man, let's crash out, or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, I'm gonna listen to some music while I fall asleep. And I'm like, all right, word, and I never really been on that with the music yet, where I was like, oh, I sleep to it. And like, like, again, I was only really listening to it if I was driving somewhere or if I was literally just sitting to listen to it on my CD player. In any case, so he's like, yeah, let's pass out. I'm like, all right. So I'm sitting there, we're in this fucking shed, and I fucking go to sleep. And he turns the music on, and the first track that plays is he starts playing Ringmaster, the second Joker's card by ICP, and that Ringmaster intro comes on, and it's so fucking crazy. Like, like I said, go listen to it. I wish I could put like a snippet in here or something like that, but I'm sure it'd be flagged and all this shit. Well, not from ICP, but just by fucking whoever owns that. In any case, so we listened to the beginning intro of this ICP song is like the guy walking up and putting his token into this fortune teller thing, and it's got this creepiest voice, like, you'll be visited by the Ringmaster, like da-da-da-da, like I can't even remember it all line for line, but I remember it freaked the fuck out of me. I remember, and that kind of again was like strange for me to like, because I never had dealt with music that literally like struck fear into me. Like it was strange that like I had heard something that I was like, I do not like listening to this. You know, it was like when you were a kid, you didn't like watching scary movies because you just get scared. But this was something I was having the same feeling for, but I was fucking listening to it. And I remember I didn't say anything because I didn't want him to be like, oh, you're a pussy or whatever the fuck. But like, I remember I was like, this is fucking scary. And it goes into the rest of the CD. But I don't even really have the memory of listening to the songs. I literally just have like the memory of me listening to that fucking song. And I was like, what the fuck with this? I didn't even comprehend yet what a juggalo was or anything like that. I was like way later. It was just basically I'd heard this song and I was fucking scared. And I was kind of intrigued by that because it was like, man, how did you fucking find a song or an artist that like scares people? Like I was like, holy shit. Especially the music I was listening to was all music that I either heard from the radio or some like public. I didn't even know that there was like an underground music or what, you know. That's why even when I seen that poster of Slipknot he had, I was like, where the fuck is this? Like I've never seen this. Like what the fuck? So yeah, I listened to that song and I was kind of hooked. Not by like hooked, like I went out and bought it, but I remember resonating. I was like, I remember I need to get my hands on it. Now, back then, my mom wasn't really, she had bought me the Limp Bizkit CD, but I had gotten over on her a little bit because she didn't really, it was like one of the first CDs I ever asked to buy. And it wasn't like, the cover was really weird, but she's a fucking hippie. She didn't care about the cover. And I don't know if she caught the like chocolate starfish hot dog flavored water thing yet. And I don't know if he had caught that necessarily. Or she caught that necessarily. So she got it for me and she knew that Rollin' song from fucking wrestling. So I think she was just kind of down with it. But she knew my cousin Tyler was going through his like rebellious stage and shit. So when I was like, yo, let me try to get one of these ICP CDs, she was like, I don't know what the fuck that is. I'm trying to listen to it first. Because she would, you know, bend the rules in some cases, but she wasn't trying to like go too far. So I think she probably heard ICP at some point, like down the road, have Tyler listen to it or something, and she was like, fuck no. You know, so it was so vastly different from any music that I was even accustomed to in any sort. So but I wasn't, like I said, I didn't start listening to it. I wasn't in that zone yet. I wasn't a juggalo yet. You know, I was just like really intrigued by this music. So I never had really obtained that CD yet for ICP or nothing like that. I just was really intrigued, and my cousin would show me bits and pieces. I remember the other thing that I was really like, I think I probably went over there a couple more times, and I wasn't like on his nuts about it, like what the fuck song was that or nothing like that. I think it was just, I was really like, what is he listening to, you know, because I really started kind of getting into music. I was really getting a feeling where it was like when you would listen to songs, you would just get that, like, I was kind of starting to get it, like it was like kind of like a feeling thing, you know. It wasn't just like, we listen to this song when you're doing this, and I can't dance anymore really, but like even back then I couldn't dance, and I was like, I never really listened to music to dance. It was always like a feeling thing that I would listen to. So I remember going over to his house after the thing, and he would kind of like dabble. He was a juggalo, but I think he was just going like, I think, you know, especially with juggalos now, like if normies aren't going to get it. So if you're a juggalo, you're not necessarily going to try to explain being a juggalo to your fucking 12-year-old fucking cousin or nothing like that, you know. He just was like, oh, check this out. And he wasn't really like trying to put me onto him either. He was just like, this is something I enjoy, but he wasn't really trying to like, yo, go listen to this, you know. He wasn't really influential like that, where he was just doing it, and I thought it was cool, so I would start picking up a game, but he wasn't like, go listen to ICP and all this shit. I remember going back there, and the other thing that really kind of brought me in was I started listening to the Slipknot CD he had there, and I was like, this is crazy. Now, I like my hard fucking rock and shit like that, and I like heavy metal and all that shit now, but back then as a kid, I was like, man, this is kind of hard to get into. I wasn't getting that feeling from it, you know, but I was really intrigued by like the visual part of it. Like they looked ridiculous, you know, and the music definitely matched their image and shit, so I was kind of like, this is crazy. But I remember going over there, and he had the Freak Show CD by Twisted, and again, if you're not a juggalo and you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, go Google it or something. But the Freak Show cover has got Jamie Madrox and Monoxide on the cover, and it's just their face, but it's half of each of their faces, and it's like stitched together. And to this day, it's still one of the most devastating covers in fucking music that I've ever really seen, next to like the Beatles Butcher Baby cover. If you ever seen that, Google that. That's crazy. The Beatles sitting there with all these like dead baby toys and shit. It's all, they're like in butcher outfits. It's fucking crazy. But yeah, I remember seeing Freak Show, and I still hadn't really listened to any music from them or nothing like that. And I just remember seeing the cover and was like, this guy is crazy. He's listening to these fucking people dressed up in fucking prison suits. He's listening to people that got their faces stitched together. Like, it was crazy. I was like really fucking intrigued. And I remember just being like, what the fuck? And here and there, he would let me listen to some shit, and I was listening to it, but I wasn't really grasping it. And the only time I ever realized how the content was actually not even really necessarily hearing the songs, but I remember my cousin had to do I remember Tyler had to do like a class where he had to like write a poem or a song lyrics or something like that to report on it. And he wrote his own lyrics, and it was like on some horrorcore shit. It wasn't like lyrics, but it was like a poem. It was on some horrorcore shit. And I remember being like, holy shit, like, this is weird, man. Like, he's like in some, like, I didn't get this horrorcore shit, and I didn't get like I was like, whoa, and his poetry was like really dark and shit. So I was kind of like, what the fuck? But really intriguing nonetheless, especially being 12 years old, you know. So at this point, I kind of had my music that I was fucking with, and I was really intrigued with Tyler's like taste for music, and again, I just wanted to be as cool as fucking he was, so it was like I was really trying to listen to anything. But around that time, my parents had split up, like I'd said earlier. They'd split up, and I went from moving from Kenai, Alaska to Wasilla, Alaska, which is probably like 3.5 hours away. And that split was kind of devastating, you know, because I was like, okay, and it was all crazy. Now, my parents never took anything weird out on me or nothing like that. And I knew, you know, living with them, obviously, I knew that they weren't the best together, but they loved the fuck out of me. And they were like best friends, but it was just one of those things where it was at the end of the rope. So that's a whole nother story, whole nother fucking Enonologs. But in any case, my parents break up, and it's determined that I'm going to go live in Wasilla. Now, when I get to Wasilla, I don't know a single fucking person. The only reason we really even moved out that motherfucker is because I had these old time family friends that my parents had the blocks, and they had recently moved. They had lived in Alaska where my parents lived, or like met them, and they moved out to fucking, I don't know, I think it was Iowa or something like that. And they moved back, and when they moved back, that's where they lived, was Wasilla. And prior to my parents really breaking up, we had taken a couple of trips out there, and I was connecting with my cousin Jared and Jess, our cousins Jared and Jess, and it was really fucking random. It wasn't like I was like moving somewhere where I was familiar with people or nothing. It was literally like, okay, I know that I'm rather be living with my mom and type of a deal. So I went with her to Wasilla. And I was the only person I even really had or hung out with was my cousin Jared. And like, again, he's not my blood cousin or nothing like that, but that's just how I knew him. So my cousin Jared was really into wrestling. So he was older than I am by, I think, 2 years or something. So not as old as Tyler, but definitely older than me. And he was really into wrestling as well. That's where me and him kind of like reconnected. Because I knew when I was a little ass kid, but not when we were like being homies and shit like that. So when I did move to Wasilla, we were hanging out, we were watching wrestling. He was really into I think he was playing guitar at that point. He is a great guitar player, but I just can't remember how early he was on it. But in any case, he was into music, and he was actually into that music that I'd already kind of prior got, like Puddle of Mud, Creed, and like this kind of like that 90s ballad type music, you know what I'm saying? So he was really into that. So, but it didn't really stretch my music knowledge, because basically I already liked something that he had liked, so we were just kind of clicking on that, you know. So I didn't really like get any new music from him. I remember he tried to get me into Sublime, and I was like, nah, this shit is fucking whack. I do not fuck with Sublime. Let's get that out of there. If you stop watching this because of that, that's whatever. But yeah, I just don't fuck with Sublime. But I remember that was like really the only thing that he was trying to get me in there. Now with my cousin Jared, it was cool though, because I was like kind of learning into music, and I was kind of like, it was nice to have someone have like it was the first time that I had someone like, I like this music, you like this music, like now we have like a similarity there, so yeah, when I moved out to Wasilla, I didn't really know shit really yet and about music or nothing like that. We moved out down Church Road, down Champaign. I know a lot of people don't know what the fuck that is, but basically just like where Wasilla's at, it's like bumfuck nowhere from where Wasilla's at. It's still in Wasilla, but it's like out in the middle of fucking nowhere, really. I was literally living in this fucking house, which was like a long house with like a small hallway, like it was one level, like 2 bedrooms with me and my mom, and it was really fucking random. Now, my mom had gotten with Jared's mom's brother. So, like I said, we weren't related and shit like that. Like, I called her my aunt and everything, but I never really referred to him as my uncle like that, But she ended up getting with him, and we ended up moving into a house and living out there in the middle of fucking nowhere. Now, when I was out there with this move and just coming into being like 13 from 12 is where I start getting into my teenage fucking hormones and stuff like that, where I was starting to rebel and my life kind of sucked, and I was like, yo, other kids don't know I'm going through that whole kid thing, So I was starting to get all edgy and shit like that. When I was out there, this is the time where my mom was kind of like, I was going through so much shit that my mom had kind of let up on like quite a few things. Like, she was kind of being a little bit more lenient because she was trying to make me as comfortable as I could be to be in Wasilla and shit. So, at this point, I really liked ICP, and I didn't really have any of their music yet. But I remember right before I left, after my cousin introduced me, I kind of was like getting into it. I remember right before I moved to Wasilla, my dad had gotten this computer, this Gateway computer, and like, fuck, man, long ass time ago. It was like brand new. It was like top of the line computer, but right now it would be a fucking ghetto piece of shit. But at the time, it was ridiculous. And I remember this is when I had first I obtained Napster. I can't remember who told me or who referred me or what. But I remember getting Napster, and this was back when there was like just downloads and shit like that. Like I could download whoever the fuck I wanted. But again, I never really downloaded any ICP songs except for the fucking bougie ass ICP songs that fucking like Juffalos know by. Like they're just the main ones. Like I had the Boogeyman on there, the Dating Game, and I think that was really it. I only had 2 songs. Oh, I had the Eminem disc, the Please Don't Hate Me, but I've been fucking your mama lately, that fucking song. I only had 3 songs, but at this point I was like, I'm fucking with this. My cousin was this. I was getting edgy, but I wasn't a juggalo yet. I wasn't really deep into that shit. So Napster I only had for a little bit because I had moved out to Wasilla like a couple of months after my dad got this computer. And I'd only been using it to download, stuff I heard from wrestling or off the radio that I really liked, Now, I wanted to, like, get into stuff, but I had no means of anything. I don't think I got internet to a minute out there in Wasilla, so I didn't have Napster. I didn't have a computer to get out there or nothing, so I couldn't, like, download the music. Now, at some point, as we're, going along, and my stepdad and my mom are like, growing their relationship, David had some kids. He had, and when I say kids, they were like 30. I was like fucking 15. They were like 27 and 26 and shit. Melissa, and I can't remember the other girl's name, actually. That's fucking weird. But in any case, he had kids. And at some point, I remember my stepsister Melissa lived out there, and we were hanging out with her boyfriend and shit like that, and it was cool. But like they'd listen to music, and they were listening to music, but I remember they were into like rock and shit like that, and I think that's where I really got a taste of like System of a Down. So basically what I was saying though is at some point my sister breaks up with her man at the time who was like kind of showing me like System of a Down and stuff like that, which I didn't really fall in love with yet. Later on, I would fall in love with System of a Down, but not just yet. But she got with this new guy, Lance, that was like a friend of my stepdad's. Or my mom, maybe. I can't remember how he became around, but basically he had gotten with her. And when they got together, they built like this Connex like close by to us. And it was like barely, they were like running power from our house and shit like that. Like it was ghetto as fuck. Like out there was pretty fucking ghetto. The little house I was lived in wasn't that fucking bad. It was like a big ass long trailer Connex thing that they had built. So it wasn't the most completely ghetto, but I was out in the middle of nowhere. Now when she got with this dude Lance, he was trying to be like that cool, like, let me make good with your brother, you know, because like I'm like your new boyfriend and shit like that. And Lance was cool. I'm just using that voice because of whatever. But Lance was cool. But I had start going through his CDs and shit like that because I was just hanging out over there with my stepsister and him at the time. And I found the Great Milenko. He had Great Milenko with him. And I was like, oh, fuck, man. Like, this is ICP. Like, I had recognized that. I don't even think I think I only recognized it and didn't recognize it. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the Joker's card for the Ringmaster, it's like, or the Joker cards in general, they're just the black backgrounds with, like, the picture. There's no writing on them. And again, being so young, that was the first time I'd ever seen. I was like, why the fuck does this album cover have like the name of the artist or anything like that? You know what I'm saying? It was just the picture on that. So when I'd seen the Great Milenko, I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like, I know this is ICP, and it ended up being the songs, the CD that had two of the songs on the Boogeyman and the Nedden game. So I copped that from him. I fucking jacked that. I jacked some other CDs at the time. I jacked White Zombie from him. I jacked the System of a Down CD he had, and I was like, oh, Peter just showed me. That's when I started falling in love with that. And like I said, when I was out there, I really had no fucking friends or nothing like that. And I would just, when I was and I was way the fuck out there. So every morning I would be like the last person the bus would pick up, and I have like 30 minutes to get back to fucking school. So I'd either pass out or listen to music on my Walkman. I fell in love with that fucking ICP CD. I was starting to understand, not like the family aspect yet, that was still later. I think that was before the family era, really. But I was really starting to understand it, and I was really starting to fall in love with it. It was just, I was in my young teenage angst years, and I was like, you know, this is fucking cool, and my cousin's gonna be fucking, you know, awesome when I go see him. Like, he's gonna be like, oh, you know, I thought it was gonna be something for us to click on, bond on and everything. So I start falling in love with that CD, and I listen to that all the time. And now at this point, my CD collection probably consisted of Iowa by fucking Slipknot. I had the Great Milenko. I had that White Zombie song that has Dragula on it. And a couple of like mix CDs that I was able to make at my dad's, because he still had that computer with Napster and everything. So I had like some mix CDs and shit. But I bumped the fuck out of that Great Milenko fucking thing. And as I was just falling in love with the artwork, you know, ICP was really a great fucking thing for me musically, man. Like, as far as getting into music, they had so much shit that I was just so interested in, and so just like, holy shit, like, this is amazing. You know, as far as the cover, the booklet was filled with all kinds of cryptic shit. They had like the Joker cards laid out, and by then I was like, I had to get the rest of these now. Like, I was familiar with the Ringmaster because I heard that song and shit like that, but I didn't even really catch the twisted ICP relationship yet. Like, that's how new it was. I was just like, I know this CD, and I fell in love with it. Yeah, that was some good shit. Now, before really becoming a juggalo, I was just into like hard music, and I'd really start right before I found ICP. I was really starting to get into my rap bag, as far as it's kind of as much as being a big hip hop head I am right now today. It kind of got postponed for a lot of shit because I caught ICP and fell in love with that world. But right before that, I was familiar with like DMX from that Limp Bizkit song, and I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like, I knew DMX at that time. the only thing I even really knew about rap was that DMX was the hardest motherfucker there was. Like, I didn't even really know a whole bunch of crazy artists. I just knew DMX. I think maybe he'd been in a couple movies by that time and shit. I just knew DMX was the fucking dog. I was like, and I never really got into DMX's music till later, but like I said, like, I just knew that motherfucker was bad. And I remember one of the first rap songs I actually fell in love with. I think the song that made me fall in love with, like, actually hip hop, like, I listened to it and I got this feeling and I was like, this is my shit, which is really random and I don't know why, but I always just remember the song is it just called Boyfriend? It's the song with Jay-Z and Beyonce, the all I need in this life is sin is me and my girlfriend, me and my girl, that song, like, I don't know what it was, if it was the beat or what, but just, I still have memories of me and my mom driving, listening to the radio and that song coming on and me just being like, this is the shit. So I think if I had not found ICP right when I did, I would have been like really into some like New York hip hop and shit like that, because the only people I even really knew of rap at the time was randomly Fresh Prince. But at this point, I kind of knew that the Fresh Prince shit wasn't like, you know, this is the era of like gangster rap and shit like that. So I kind of knew Fresh Prince wasn't really on that he was like, it was so colorful. I knew it felt so 80s to me, even though I didn't even know what the fuck that meant. But I just knew it wasn't like, Fresh Prince is definitely not DMX. He's not barking at me, you know. DMX, he's not Jay-Z, you know what I'm saying? So that was it. I had started listening to hip hop at that point. But right before right after I fell in love with ICP, and I still was liking music. You know, I wasn't like, I only listened to ICP yet. There was a point where I was like that, but I was right before I listened to music. So I was kind of like, okay. And I think I was even fucking with like, man, I think there's someone big that I'm missing, but I can't remember as far as rap, but yeah, so start falling in love with that Great Milenko CD, and it just kind of took off from there. I remember going back to Lance after that and being like, this is fucking amazing. I've been waiting for this CD for so long, like, holy crap. And I was just like kind of gushing, and he's like, oh, I got the next one. Like, I was like, what do you mean you got the next one? And he had a copy of Amazing Jekyll Brothers back there that I later found out, but it was only on cassette. So I had to listen to it like on a tape player and shit, which was on my CD player at the time and shit. But yeah, so I can't believe that's already fucking 30 minutes. I gotta go in here and do a thing. I didn't know that this would go by so fast. I hope that I didn't just, I mean, I know this whole show is just me rambling and everything, but I hope at least it was consistent enough to make this like an actual episode. It went by so fast that I feel like I didn't give you guys enough content, but, I guess I'll stop it right here. It's about 33 minutes. I got to go inside here. So, yeah, if you guys haven't yet, go like the As We Venture Forth page, Mr. Ree, Yami Jamie, all that stuff. Go follow us on YouTube and shit. We'll kind of get into, I guess the next step would be kind of getting into like how deep the Juggalo rabbit hole goes and how that affected me listening to all kinds of music and stuff like that, you know. How I had a huge disdain for Eminem and then became like a huge fucking Eminem fan just because I was so Juggalo fucking, it's like that stage one Juggalo-ness where it's like you can't like anything that ICP don't like, you know. It's totally the opposite, you know. Being a Juggalo is about being you and having no, you know, worries about what anyone else thinks, even if it's other Juggalos. So like, but there was a point where I was like, fuck, I'm Eminem, you know, even though I think he's the GOAT now, which is fucking hilarious. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll try to crank another one of these out. This one I'm probably going to release pretty soon just because it went so smooth and everything. I'm kind of getting the hang of it and everything. Go comment, go like, if you've got suggestions or anything like that. If I'm cursing too much, or if I'm saying, Chris was giving me a hard time. He kept saying, so like I said, I'm just freestyling off the top. So, I'll try to be as concise as I am and everything. So, hope to talk to you guys soon. Hope you liked the episode, and, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Midnight Sun Music.